Yo, what's up, everyone? Today, we're going to talk about Pokemon. Again. You know, for someone that keeps claiming that I don't like Pokemon, I keep getting wrapped up into Pokemon stuff. I think eventually I just have to either admit that A, I have a problem, or B, I might secretly be into Pokemon. And I think I'd rather just admit that I have a problem. So, today we're going to be reading. I'm going to be reading. You're not going to be reading. Don't worry. You don't have to read anything. I am going to be reading Pokemon Creepypastas. Now, let me explain to you what's going on here. My original plan for this video was I was going to read the Pokemon Black Creepypasta, which has nothing to do with, the DS game Pokemon Black that's actually, pretty sweet. I think some people nowadays like to call it like Creepy Black, that way, we can differentiate? Man, I swear, maybe I need to start taking Duolingo in English. So, we're going to talk about Pokemon Creepy Black, if you want to call it that. And I was originally going to read the story, and then play a ROM hack that was aiming to replicate the story. However, and none of this is a dig on anybody working on this stuff, I skimmed through some footage of the ROM hack, and it straight up, unfortunately, just does not look that interesting. It looks like barely different than normal Pokemon gameplay, so I'm not going to sit here and read the story and then play like 3 hours of barely different Pokemon Red. That's not super interesting. You could watch people that know way more about Pokemon actually play Pokemon. So, I got a proposition. Instead of me reading one bad story, I think we're going to read about 5 bad stories. I love creepypastas. I love Pokemon creepypastas. There's a lot of good garbage in here. And before I say any more, I don't mean any, offense to any authors or anything. Straight up, this stuff is written better than anything that I could write. I'm terrible at writing things. This isn't me trying to come up in here and be like, oh, I could do so much better than you. These stories are crap. No, these are probably written by, kids and stuff like that are into Pokemon and creepy things. If I'm making fun of a story, I'm not making fun of the author. Most of what I think I'll be looking at today has no author on file as to who wrote it or whatever. But I will say, if I read something and, somebody actually wrote it and you have some sort of verifiable proof and you either want me to credit you or you don't like the fact that I talked about it, just let me know. I'll cut it out or I'll give credit or whatever you want me to do. So, now that we got this premise set up, we're going to start with the classic, one of the best ones. We're going to start with Pokemon Black. Pokemon Creepy Black? Whatever. I've always wanted to do this. You know how excited I am? We're going to read scary stories together. This is amazing. Alright. Let's start with this. Okay. Oh, God. Okay, it's already beginning. Alright. I'm what you call a collector of bootleg Pokemon games, Pokemon Diamond and Jade, Chaos Black, etc. It's amazing the frequency with which you can find them at pawn shops, Goodwill, flea markets, and such. Can I interject real quick? I've never seen a Pokemon ROM hack at a flea market or a Goodwill or anything or a pawn shop, and I've been to all these types of things before. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, they're generally fun, even if they are unplayable, which they often are. The mistranslations and poor quality make them unintentionally humorous. I've been able to find most of the ones that I've played online, but there's one that I haven't seen any mention of. I bought it at a flea market about 5 years ago, right? And then he waited 5 years to write this story. Okay. Here's a picture of the cartridge in case anybody recognizes it. Unfortunately, when I moved 2 years ago, I lost the game, so I can't provide you with screen caps. Sorry. Okay, I'll throw up an image of that when I'm, editing me later on so you can see the picture attached to the story. Okay, I'll try to keep my interjections to a minimum so we can actually read this story. Okay, so author got Pokemon Black from, what did he say? A flea market? A pawn shop? I already don't remember. A flea market. Okay, my bad. So, the game started with a familiar Nidorino and Gengar intro of red and blue version. However, the press start screen had been altered, Red was there, but the Pokemon did not cycle through. It also said Black version under the Pokemon logo. Upon selecting New Game, the game started the Professor Oak speech, and it quickly became evident that the game was essentially Pokemon Red version. After selecting your starter, it looked at your Pokemon. You had an addition to Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle. Oh my god, what is this? Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt the story 50 times, but I'm trying to read this verbatim, and some of the grammar is questionable at best. So, after selecting your starter, if you looked at your Pokemon, you had, in addition to Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle, another Pokemon, Ghost. Okay, got it. The Pokemon was level 1. It had the sprite of the ghosts that are encountered in Lavender Tower before obtaining the Silph Scope. It had one attack, Curse. I know there is a real move named Curse, but that attack did not exist in Generation 1, so it appears it was hacked in. Right? Defending Pokemon were unable to attack Ghost. It would only say they were too scared to move. When the move Curse was used in battle, the screen would cut to black. The cry of the defending Pokemon would be heard, but it was distorted, played at a much lower pitch than normal. The battle screen would then reappear, and the defending Pokemon would be gone. If used in a battle against a trainer, when the Pokeballs representing their Pokemon would appear in the corner, they would have one fewer Pokeball. One fewer Pokeball, or would it be Pokeballs? Excuse me. The implication was that the Pokemon died. Right? Okay. How did he come to that conclusion, though? Okay. What's even stranger is that after defeating a trainer and seeing Red receive $200 for winning, the battle commands would appear again. If you selected Run, the battle would end as it normally does. You could also select Curse. If you did, upon returning to the overworld, the trainer sprite would be gone. After leaving and re-entering the area, the spot, in brackets, where the trainer had been would be replaced with a tombstone like the ones at Lavender Tower. The move Curse was not usable in all instances. It would fail against ghost Pokemon. It would fail if it was used against trainers that you would have to face against, such as your rival or Giovanni. It was usable in your final battle against them, however. I figured this was the gimmick of the game, allowing you to use the previously uncapturable ghost. And because Curse made the game so easy, I essentially used it throughout the whole adventure. The game changed quite a bit after defeating the Elite Four. After viewing the Hall of Fame, which consisted of Ghost and a couple Pokemon I used for HMs, the screen cut to black. A box appeared with the words, "Many years later, ... It then cut to Lavender Town. Of course it did. An old man was standing, looking at tombstones. You then realized this man was your character. What do you... I'm so sorry. What do you mean I realized? I thought this was you explaining the game. I didn't realize this man was my character until you told me it was. Okay, I'm just poking fun. The man moved at only half of your normal walking speed. You no longer had any Pokemon with you, not even Ghost, who, up to this point, had been impossible to remove from your party through depositing it in the PC. The overworld was entirely empty. There were no people at all. There were still tombstones of the trainers that you used Cursed on, however. You could pretty much go anywhere in the overworld at this point, though your movement was limited by the fact that you had no Pokemon to use HMs. And regardless of where you went, the music of Lavender Town continued on an infinite loop. Of course it did. I should have seen that coming. After a while, I found that if you go through Diglett's cave, one of the cuttable bushes that normally blocks the path on the other side is no longer there, allowing you to advance and return to Pallet Town. Upon entering your house and going to the exact the exact tile where you start the game, the screen would cut to black. Then a sprite of Caterpie appeared. It was the replaced by a Weedle, that's what it says, and then a Pidgey. I soon realized, as the Pokemon progressed from Rattata to Blastoise, is that how you pronounce the rat Pokemon? That these were all of the Pokemon that I had used Cursed on. After the end of my rival's team, a youngster appeared, and then a bug catcher. These were the trainers I had cursed. Throughout the sequence, the Lavender Town music was playing, but it was slowly decreasing in pitch. By the time your rival appeared on screen, it was little more than a demonic rumble. Let's go, of course it was. Another cut to black. A few moments later, the battle screen suddenly appeared. Your trainer sprite was now that of an old man, the same one as the one who teaches you how to catch Pokemon in Viridian City. Ghost appeared on the other side, along with the words, "Ghost wants to fight." You couldn't use items. You had no Pokemon. If you tried to run, you couldn't escape. The only option was fight. Using fight would immediately cause you to use struggle, which didn't affect the ghost, but did chip off a bit of your own HP. When it was Ghost's turn to attack Ghostesses, it would simply say, ... Eventually, when your HP reached a critical point, Ghost would finally use Curse. The screen cut to black a final time. Regardless of the buttons you pressed, you were permanently stuck in this black screen. At this point, the only thing you could do was turn the Game Boy off. When you played again, New Game was the only option. The game had erased the file. I played through this hacked game many times, and every time the game ended with this sequence. Several times I didn't use Ghost at all, though he was impossible to remove from the party. In these cases, it did not show any Pokemon or trainers and simply cut to the climactic battle with Ghost. I'm not sure what the motives were behind the creator of this hack. It wasn't widely distributed, so it was presumably not for monetary gain. It was very well done for a bootleg. It seems he was trying to convey a message, though it seems I am the sole receiver of this message. I'm not entirely sure what it was. The inevitability of death? The pointlessness of it? Perhaps he was simply trying to morbidly inject death and darkness into a children's game. Regardless, this children's game has made me think, and it has made me cry. Original author unknown. Oh my god. Okay. I know I'm laughing. I know I'm poking fun at it. But I will say, legitimately, I do like this story. It has an interesting premise, and I am such a sucker for like creepy ROM hacks or haunted game creepypastas. Like I would say they're never, like unbelievable literary masterpieces, but there's like technological horror is something that I absolutely love. And I feel like it's definitely the type of thing that you find way more in online spaces than you do, say, like, movies and stuff. And I feel like we kind of had, like, maybe the pinnacle of that during, say, like, late 90s, early 2000s when we had stuff like The Ring, which I love the books. I love some of the Japanese movies. Like, I love The Ring as the movie in Japan. The sequel, the prequel, maybe not so much, but the books are incredible. And I even like the first American film, and not that I haven't seen, like, Ring 2 and stuff. Oh, and there was, Rings in America. I remember watching that, too. I think I have that on DVD somewhere. But, like, this is probably my favorite genre of horror, and I feel like, at least to me personally, you really don't see it much anymore. I feel like we've gotten some of it with, like, when you talk about some, like, maybe some indie games that kind of play on the aspect of maybe innocent-looking game, turn kind of spooky, which I find that premise fun. So, like, one of my favorite examples, I don't remember the exact name of it, but there's, like, I think it was, like, a series. There were these DS games, and I wish I could remember what they're called, but it's, like, straight up just, like, in Japanese entirely, so I don't remember the name. but it's like there's like this almost like NES looking type game that you're playing, and it's like a background element to like a normal horror game, and like the stuff you do in the game affects like the normal out of game experience for like the horror game. It was super cool. It's like that idea of a haunted game type thing that I absolutely adore. So I love the story. I love this topic. I hope you're having fun with me. I hope you understand where I'm coming from with this kind of stuff, because I genuinely love this kind of stuff. I really do. So I'd say, of course, this is an interactive experience. This is a shared experience. I want you to let me know what you think of this story. And you know what? When I'm all done with this, feel free. Rate them. Rate them in the comments. Let me know what your favorite story on this list is. Or maybe I missed one that you love, or, you find entertaining for a different reason. So I think that's enough. It's not a preamble, it's an after-amble. So I think we should move on to the next story now. Is that cool? I think we are going to read Glitchy Red. Alright. It already starts with a lovely picture. It's this guy's hand, and he's holding 2 copies of Pokemon Red. I'm scared. Like I'm shaking in my boots right now. I am crying over here. I'm gonna go lock all my doors right now. I'm so unbelievably scared. So he's holding 2 copies of Pokemon Red. So get that image in your head. I'll show you the image. That way we're all on the same page, right? Right. So, about a month ago, I bought a second Pokemon Red cartridge off eBay, exact words verbatim, so I could start a new game and screw around without messing up my save file. As soon as I compared it to my old one, I knew it was either bootleg or produced somewhere else. You can see in the picture how the sticker doesn't fit the front of the cartridge, and the red plastic is cheap and almost see-through. If you look close, you can see the internal battery on the second, while the first can't be seen through at all. When I started it up, it had only one option: new game. And unlike the well-loved cartridge I'd been using, it didn't have any wear marks from being inserted into the Game Boy Color or anything indicating it had been used. Well, what the heck, I figured. I'd poured plenty of money. I had poured, I guess it makes sense. I'd poured plenty of money into the franchise, and one bootlegged game wasn't going to kill me. I popped it into my GBC, Game Boy Color for those listening at home, and started playing. That interjection wasn't part of the story. A couple weeks ago, I lost my Game Boy Color for a while, so I had to play it on my SP. No huge deal, I thought. When I started the game up, oddly enough, the backlit screen of my SP went out, like I was playing on an old Game Boy Advance or a Color. I thought that was pretty weird, considering the lower setting of my SP's screen was brighter than the high setting on all my friends' SP. Interjection. I only have a front-lit SP. Do the backlit models have different brightness settings? The front-lit ones only have on or off. Man, if that's the case, that's pretty cool. So, let's get back to the story without me trying to talk tech for 2 seconds. I know that's kind of my thing here, but let's dial down the nerdiness for a second so we can read creepy Pokemon stories. Alright, let's get back into it. So, it was unlikely, because he took very good care of his SP, right? It was unlikely that the backlight would be going anytime soon. But as soon as I switched to playing Sapphire, the screen lit back up. I'd played my other Red on this SP plenty, and it had never dimmed for an old Game Boy game, so I just attributed it. What is English? I just attributed it. I swear I speak English. I just realized I don't know how to pronounce attribute. Is it attributed? I'm going to say so. I just attributed it to the game itself being poorly made, which makes no freaking sense, I know. Okay, I have to interject again. I am censoring some of these words. I'd like to keep my channel just a tiny bit clean. I don't think we need full-on cussing in a Pokemon creepypasta, but that's just my opinion, you know? So, let me say something real quick about the writing, and it's tripping me up. There are so many contractions that I think shouldn't be being used. It's actually like interrupting the flow of reading verbally, and I think maybe it's like if I was just reading this without talking, it'd be fine. But like the constant contractions are like quite honestly tripping me up way too much for a native English speaker. This is ridiculous. This is kind of user error. I understand that, but okay. All right. I'm done. Let's get back into the story. Okay. About now, you're oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay, about now. You are probably wondering, yeah, I am. Okay, you're probably wondering when I'm going to start telling you about how there were unknown in my party and the buried alive guy in Lavender Town started eating my player character because any pre-owned bootleg game story is bound to have some creepy hack stuff. Well, it wasn't that simple. I played through Lavender Town, the Pokemon Tower, all of that, and nothing unusual happened. I didn't go mad from the music and feel... Man, this is the worst story to read. There are so many words that I just can't be saying. So, he didn't feel ultra sad playing this. My Pokemon never turned white and started crying tears of blood or anything like that. However, as I continued playing, it became apparent to me that this game had some glitches. Just like the cheap plastic casing and sticker that barely stuck, the game itself was flaky. I've never played Pokemon on an emulator before, but if I had to guess, I would say when it was copied, a lot of the data was corrupted, and I had to be careful when playing it or it would freeze. Okay, look, I'm seriously trying not to nitpick every single thing in these stories. However, what is my man talking about? Emulators are not used for dumping cartridges. You get either physical cartridge dumpers or like homebrew applications on your systems to dump this kind of stuff. What? No, I love technical illiteracy in stories like this. It is my favorite thing. And again, I'm just poking fun. I know not everybody knows about this stuff, but man, it gets me going. Okay, back to the story. For example, sometimes the graphics around the player, I'm going to call him Red, as that's what I named him. I'm a bit of a Red fanboy. Thank you. Would turn into big color bars and the game would stop. And the background music would stop on whatever note it had hit and play this high-pitched, staticky whine until I restart. Grammar. This happened whenever I tried to get on my bike inside a cave or building. I was almost sure this was just a normal bootleg game until I examined the SNES in the Celadon department store. Don't judge me, but being a Red fanboy, I've always liked when the game said things from Red's point of view, like how he says, "Dad would like this," when you examine the Super Nintendo, or "I should get going," ... when you examine the TV, since you never get to see the player say anything, to the point where, as a joke, the developers made Red say nothing more than ellipses when you encountered him in gold, silver, or crystal. Anyways, when I examined the SNES, where Red would normally say, "Dad would like this," instead I saw the text, "Where is Dad?" in all caps. I examined it again, and same thing. I kind of laughed it off, thinking, for some reason, it was poor translation. Don't ask how I thought that made any sense. Don't worry, I won't. In the back of my mind, I was kind of hoping for a hack game, because hey, if I got some screen caps and posted them on 4chan, it'd be able to at least kill an afternoon laughing about it. Don't go on 4chan, that place is a cesspool and I love it. I went to the next floor, then went back down and checked the NES again. What is it? Is it a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo? Oh, he said NES. So, To my surprise, the message changed. Now, Red said, "Who created me?" At this point, I was pretty sure this had been added in by some hacker, and I thought that was kind of awesome, all caps. Heck, Red finding out he was really just a video game character. That's pretty funny. My man's got the mouth of a sailor, let me tell you what. After that, and after failing to find any other added in dialogue, I continued on in the game story. At that point, I was about near the part where you surf to Cinnabar and the Seafoam Islands, but the glitching was getting worse. Sometimes the map would get distorted, like Glitch City, and Red would be surfing on a tree or a house or some stuff, and I couldn't move. I had to fly out and try again. As a kid, I'd always liked doing Missing No and Glitch City, and I had a Game Shark back in the day, so the glitches were kind of cool. Eventually, I made it to Cinnabar. Now, being an avid glitcher way back when, of course, the first thing I did was fly back to Viridian and do the old man trick. But no matter how many times I tried, I could never get Missing No to appear. I thought maybe the ROM had been edited to prevent glitching, but that clearly wasn't the case, as the thing had more bugs than the effing Viridian Forest. Oh my god. Instead, when I entered the Pokemon Mansion, I was greeted by the following text window. Red. Nice try, Red. It was obvious that there were Red. It would be the name of whatever you named your player. Yes. Okay. What freaked me out was Red, in all caps, as the speaker. What? At this point, I know I had to have an edited game. The effing player character was telling me nice try after I'd failed to do a missing number. Oh, this is amazing. I love the grammar. The game froze then, and I restarted. I hadn't saved since before I tried the Missing No glitch, but when I turned the game on again, I was back in the mansion, exactly where the window had popped up. I could move again, so I went ahead and played through the mansion. Call me up. Dude, this guy is dropping more cuss words than I do off camera. I can't do this. There's so many. I don't even know how to substitute this. Oh my god. Okay. Call me a kitty, but despite dude, I don't know what to say. You know what I'm trying to say. Call me a wuss, but despite my excitement, I was scared. So I played slowly. Sorry. Okay. So I played slowly, and with all the lights on, I was still playing on my SP, and the internal light still didn't work. So I used that as a justification for me being a massive wuss. Oh my god, these got such a potty mouth. Bro, it's okay. Okay. Things only got weirder. After I left the mansion, I got a message. PA, ding dong, time's up, your Safari game is over. Having done Glitch City in the past, I knew this happened whenever you flew out of the Safari Zone. As I expected, I was outside the Safari Zone gate the next time I hit A, with the attendants asking me if I got a good haul. I had an immense feeling of foreboding when I went to leave the gate, scared I'd be in Glitch City, or even worse. I had a flyer, but you have to understand, this is all a little unnerving. Instead, I was in Pallet Town, but there was no music, nothing. Another text window appeared. Red. This isn't where I'm from. I've been lied to. I couldn't move my player after that, so I went to reset, but something stopped me. Instead, I opened the start menu and went to fly the F out of there, but to my horror, the Pidgeot I used for fly wasn't there. Just my Blastoise, Executor, Kadabra, Mew from the Nugget Bridge glitch, and a Kangaskhan. I'm super glad he gave us his whole party layout. I think it's really integral to the story, and how he got the Mew on top of it. In Pidgeot's place was a level 16 Raticate with 1 HP. It was poisoned. I checked its stats, and it had the OT Blue and new original trainer, is that what that means? And new Hyper Beam, Quick Attack, Glare, and Skull Bash. Is Skull Bash a Pokemon move? I clearly need to play these games in English or something. I don't even know if Raticate can learn all of these moves. I've since heard that Gary's Raticate died, in parentheses, seriously, in the game. But I had named Gary Douche in this game for a few laughs. I guess the OT name Blue came from the fact that Blue is the opposite to Red version. Like maybe it was supposed to have come from a blue cartridge. I'm so sorry. I'm collecting myself. So he thinks this bad boy came from a blue cartridge. Okay. I know Rattata doesn't evolve until level 20, so this was a pretty obvious hack. I had some antidotes and potions in my bag, so I figured, what the heck, I'd heal it. But when I left the Pokemon menu, the entire start menu closed, and I couldn't open it again. I tried walking, and this time, I was able to move. I took a few steps, forgetting about the poison until a box popped up again. Red. We killed it. At this point, I was getting a little freaked out. In parentheses, no effing... Dude, there's so much cussing in this. Oh my god, I'm not reading that. I went to my party, and Raticate wasn't there at all. Neither was my Pidgeot. The slot was empty. I closed the menu and tried to move again, but nothing. I didn't want to turn the game off in case it had somehow saved again, so I just kept trying to move before remembering that my Kadabra still knew teleport. When I hit start, nothing happened. I kept trying to move, but I couldn't move. No. ... Red wasn't letting me move. Red. This happened to me. Why? At this point, I just shut the game off. I took the hacked Red version out and put in Fire Red. Like with my old game, I named the player Red, and for some reason, it still kinda scared me. I started it up, and, to my horror, the screen was still dimmed. I hit continue on the main menu, but when I tried to open my game, I got the message saying that my save data had been lost or corrupted. And when I started, the game froze, with the music just being a staticky whine. At this point, I was really desperate to play some effing Pokemon where no weird stuff was going on, and I was pissed that my Fire Red version was broken, so I threw in Sapphire and I started it up. The screen lit up normally. I thought for a moment that maybe something was wrong with my SP that broke my Fire Red, and, more profanity, I didn't want that happening to my Sapphire with the Jirachi from Coliseum, and the Feebas. Feebas? What is that? It had taken me an hour to find, so I shut it off and pulled it out. I started playing what I call Glitchy Red version again about a week ago. When I started it back up, I was still in Pallet Town, and there was music and things seemed normal except for the empty slot in my party and my SP screen no longer lighting up. I biked to Viridian and found Pidgeot safely in my PC, so I figured, what the heck, and took it out and flew to Cinnabar to fight Blaine. When I went to unlock the gym, surprise, another text box. Red. No. No matter how many times I tried, the game refused to believe I had the effing secret key, despite it being right there in my bag. Red wasn't letting me in. Red. Everything that happened to me happened because the world let it happen to me. I didn't become a hero on my own. I was manipulated. I never unlocked that door. That door was unlocked because the game let me in. Everything you do because the game lets you. Because of how the text boxes were, it took a really long time to scroll through, and the whole time I was writing down what he was saying, so I had it on reference. Things were getting a little too Silent Hill for me. What does that even... I get what you're trying to do. What does that mean? And once again, I tried to move, but Red wouldn't let me. Red, I'm going to show you how it feels to be unable to choose your fate. I gave up and opened the start menu again, glad that I could, and use Pidgeot to fly out of there. I knew now that this was only because Red was letting me fly out. He was toying with me. I flew to Lavender because, shockingly enough, nothing weird ever happened there. From Lavender, I walked down to try to go to Fuchsia, but as soon as I left Lavender, Red was at it again. Red. No. Well, more cussing, I thought. I opened the menu and flew to Fuchsia. When I got there, I nearly... Oh, dude, why'd you write that? Why? No, I'm not saying that. He nearly soiled his pants and dropped his SP. It was the glitch city you get to when you surf along Cinnabar's coast. Nope, that's not how glitch city works. Okay, it was the glitch city you get to when you surf along Cinnabar's coast. Immediately, the menu popped up, the way it does when you do the Mew glitch, and it was asking me to save the game. There was no option for no, and pressing B did nothing. I shut my game off. When I started it back up, bro, just turn it off and stop, you're done. When I started it back up, I was still in Glitch City. I checked my party the way Red wanted me to. Pidgeot and Kadabra were there, but instead of teleport and fly appearing when I selected them, there was only cursed. Not cursed like that effing R creepy black pasta, but cursed. Oh, bro did not like creepy black. Oh my god, no, he was having no part of that. I liked this story. I thought it was fun, but he is so much more above that, especially because every other word is some sort of amount of cussing. I love it. This is amazing. Okay, but it's cursed, not cursed like that stupid, creepy black story. I was smart enough not to select it. I hit B until I was out of the menu, and Red was telling me stuff again. See, there's more cursing. Red, you're staying here with me, Red. They replaced me because I was glitched and not good enough. Sick. I thought this was my story, but I'm just a character in a video game. They took everything from me. My voice, my freedom, my legacy. They replaced me with the brown-eyed kid. I understand now that he meant Fire Red version and the gold, silver, and crystal versions where he'd been demoted to final boss. He let me move, and to my surprise, the game never froze, even as I was walking on water and stepping onto houses. Eventually, I suppose I went too far, because the screen turned black around my player. Red, am I a joke to you? A yes-no option popped up. I can't tell you how fast I hit no. Red, then why do you do these things to me? Why do you corrupt my world and show me glitches that aren't meant to be? Why do you hurt me with missing no? I never wanted to hurt Red. It was just for fun. The game had bugs, and we've all just exploited them for fun, right? Red, why did I have to die just because I'm a hero? I shut my game off. That night, I had a dream where I was a Pokemon trainer, the player from Fire Red, who I will never again think of as Red. I was being chased by a white pale body. While I can't feel pain in my dreams, I know some people can. The pale figure eventually caught me and ripped at my chest and sides with his nails. The last thing I saw before I woke up was the face of my attacker, a little boy with bright red eyes, black hair, and a red and white hat. Oh yeah, this is amazing. For the next few days, when I played, it was because I had to. I was trapped in the blackness because Red refused to let me go. Because he was forsaken and forgotten, left to just be abused by players who come back out of nostalgia and who exploit the bugs. Because I played so much, I almost always had a headache from the high-pitched noises the game makes. I had to call out of work sick. Sorry, boss, I can't come in. Pokemon Red is scaring me. I could never move, but I found comfort in staring at the screen with the black background and my player. Red didn't say anything to me. I couldn't play Fire Red again, even though it worked on my DS. Yesterday, I finally got to Mount Silver on Heart Gold, and I couldn't bring myself to battle Red. I don't know what he'd do to me if I beat his replacement. Would he be angry? Happy? Would his defeat put his spirit at peace? I don't know. No matter how many times I play through the games, Red will suffer the same fate because he is a hero, and because the games let him only go so far. Red will never again be able to experience the glory of being the hero, and neither will we. No matter how many times you start a new game, it will never be the same as the first time you played. You know what's going to happen, and you play for nostalgia, because it's just a game to you now. I killed Red, and so did you. Unlike Ash Ketchum, he's never going to be the hero of another new game in a brand new region. In Heart Gold, Gold's successor, I don't think that's how a remake works. Ethan had even taken his accomplishments from him. Being the one to catch the Pokemon Red had fought so hard for. Mewtwo, Zapdos, Articuno, Moltres. His life is over for him. He became such a legend that there was nothing left for him to even be proud of himself. I finished Glitchy Red yesterday. When I finally checked my trainer card, there was a sprite of Red as he appeared in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, but in the game's same monochrome color scheme, just red and green. What? Monochrome. One color. When I looked closer, the red pixels making up his shirt looked darker and arranged oddly, almost like he was bleeding from the chest. None of my badges, or time played, or trainer ID, just that sprite. When I returned to the menu, instead of my name appearing as Red, there was the word Gone from my trainer card. I selected it, and this time, the card was blank. Red, go ahead and forget me now. Goodbye. The game reset the way it does after you beat the champion, and this time, there was only one option. New game. I found my Game Boy Color earlier today and started playing it on there. When I played on my SP, the screen lit up and everything was normal. I had to start a new game on my Fire Red, but it's working again. Even the bootleg Red version plays normally, no glitches, but I can never see Red Silence the same ever again, or even the hilarious Missing Note and Glitch City bugs. I have a much deeper respect for the silent protagonist in the game, and for all we put them through. Lavender Town used to creep me out, but now I find it very peaceful, as even Red, who wanted revenge on a world that had treated him so horribly, could never mess with the resting place of fallen Pokemon. Someday, I hope I stop waking up with scratches on my torso. Oh, what's that? Twist ending? Oh! And once again, there is no author attached to this. Oh, oh my god. Okay, that was... honestly, like, there is a tale there, and I definitely enjoyed it. This is so incredibly dated. I love that he wrote, I'm just assuming, that they wrote, like, a profanity-ridden, edgy Pokemon creepypasta, and then was like, this is so much better than those stupid Pokemon Black creepypasta. I mean, like, well, like, if I'm being real, they're like, this one, I think, is, like, of a worse quality, and again, this is no, like, no offense to the original authors or anything like that. Like, again, I was, like, it's almost especially because of all the profanity in here, I was incredibly entertained trying to read this. This was, I mean, there's like a story going on. There's a lot more to this than Pokemon Black. So, you know, there is that, you know, we get a new alternative backstory to Red. I really enjoyed that. So what did you think of that? What did you guys think of that? I enjoyed that. I did. However, I do think so far I like Pokemon Black better. I barely remember Glitchy Red. I think I definitely remember seeing that, like, picture, but I don't remember, like, a millisecond of the story. So that was super fun for me to read again. I really enjoyed that. I loved that, like I don't even understand why there's a plot element of his SP's light not working when he's playing, like, the bootlegged Red. I don't know if that's supposed to make it more scary, but it's like you could just I don't know, like you said, just turn on a light. I don't know. I love introducing plot elements that barely matter to the story. That's incredible. And again, I'm saying all this. I could never write a story even half as good as that. Okay, so how about we read? Can I even say that word? Okay, well, we're gonna read another Pokemon creepypasta, Strangled Red. All right. Let's get down to it. There are tons of stories about hacked Pokemon games. Yeah, we know. Some of them really quite neat, such as the one about a version where you get a ghost as the starter. You know what? Yeah, me too. I love that one. Some are ridiculous, like silly stories about individuals dying after playing a game, or the game talking to them. God, don't these writers know less is more when it comes to these stories? Well, I digress. I grew interested in these hacked games that are apparently in any thrift store on eBay or handed out by homeless people to random passerby. Straight up, that's the actual grammar. I didn't have the pleasure of meeting these creepy people. I merely found this particular cartridge in a trash bin when the garbage truck backed into my neighbor's dumpster. I noticed the game, and I asked the trash man if I could take it, and he didn't seem to mind. It was thrown away after all. I, of course, checked with my neighbor to confirm if they actually didn't want it, though they seemed perplexed, as if they'd never seen it in their life. Their son made a grab for it, a little boy who saw the Charizard on the cover, crying out, "Pokemon, I want, Mommy!" But his mother told him no, seeing as I found it. He didn't even have a Game Boy anyways, he just liked Pokemon. So, you take this out of their trash can, their kid comes out, asks if he could have it, and then even the mom was like, no, you can't have that. Our neighbor took dibs on our trash. Alright, I see you. Thinking nothing more, I simply went home, looking at the cartridge's sticker on the way. Just a plain old red version, the sticker torn slightly across the Charizard's neck. Is that foreshadowing? But that was expected with such an old game. Look, let me tell you something right now. I have NES cartridges, I have Famicom cartridges, Game Boy cartridges. None of my stickers are ripped. I'm just going to say that. I had a blue version as a kid, so I was a bit eager to see the, albeit minimal, differences red version had. I was rather disappointed by what I saw when the title screen showed up. Pokemon, Strangled Red version. Well, darn it, it was a hack. Hacks were neat and all, but they had zero monetary value. The original's quite valuable by now, and I wanted to play Red anyways. Not this crap. Oh well, it was free. Might as well try it. The name was odd, however. Strangled Red? That made no sense, not even in a morbid description of someone being asphyxiated, as people turn blue when choking, not red. I'm really glad that's what you're hung up on. Who knows, maybe there was a pair of these hacks, and I just got the red one. The more I thought about it, though, the more interested I became. My initial disappointment turned into curiosity. I wanted to know what the creator had made. I was going to note everything I saw. The first oddity I noticed was the start screen had a Charizard next to the trainer instead of a Charmander. Also, the Pokemon never cycled through like the original versions did. It just stayed Charizard, even after 5 minutes of waiting. Shrugging, I hit start, noticing there was no Charizard cry as I did, like there was supposed to be. You just said Charizard's not supposed to be there, so why is there also supposed to be a Charizard cry? I know I said I was gonna keep the interjection to a minimum. I cannot help myself. I saw there was a continue option, so I figured I'd do what everyone did with used games and see what the previous owners had done. ... No. ... I blinked in surprise. No? What do you mean, no? The game wouldn't let me continue no matter what, though on the 4th attempt, I heard their Charizard cry, quiet and barely audible. But there, shrugging it off, I decided to just hit new game, like I would have done after checking the old file anyways. The screen cut to black for a while, no Professor Oak, no starting theme, just nothing at all. Eventually, the screen came back, showing a bedroom, 2 beds, 2 TVs, and a computer in the corner. My trainer sprite was the usual one, consistent with the original Red version. I was curious as to why he didn't ask my name, though that was answered as I opened the pause menu, noticing my trainer was named Steven. No, this isn't my real name or some stupid crap like that. This game isn't self-aware or haunted, at least not that I know of. It just had a name chosen already. Curious, I saw he had the starter amount of money, starter amount of money, no badges. He didn't look like Red though. Yo. Oh wait, okay, he said the overworld sprite looked the same. Okay, my bad, sorry. So he didn't look like Red though. His hair was longer, almost reaching halfway down his back. Red's usual smile replaced with a confident smirk. Honestly, I found the sprite so much cooler than Red. Next, I checked out his Pokemon. A single Charmander, level 5, named Miki. Nothing was odd about it, or should I say her, with the name and all. She had beginning Charmander stats, only knew Scratch and Tail Whip, basic stuff. The game seemed relatively normal. Returning to the game, I walked around the room, noticing Steven's long hair was present on the back of my trainer sprite when my back was turned to the camera. Hey, you just told me that it was the same Red sprite. Why are you lying to me, author? Okay. I didn't recognize the house, but I descended the stairs to see more. Downstairs was another trainer, who spoke to me the instant I came down. Mike, ready yet? Steven. Yeah. I assumed this Mike was my rival, pre-decided for me, a replacement of Blue, most likely, though I thought back to the bedroom having 2 beds, realizing they weren't just rivals, they were brothers. Weren't there 2 beds in the Gold and Silver Spaceworld demo? I'm going to be using footage of that anyways for like the background of this video, and I know I just looked at that. I already don't remember. I'm kind of poking fun at the author's memory, and you know what? Mine's not that much better, so I guess we have something in common. So, you got 2 beds, they're brothers, blah blah blah, whatever. They talked back and forth. Basic Pokemon dialogue. Become a Pokemon master, oh my god. Catch 'em all, stuff like that. Before having a little argument over which is better, Charmander or Squirtle. Wouldn't that be like whom is better? Which of course led to the introduction battle, like the one versus Blue in the lab. Simple enough. Scratch, tackle, till I won it, purely for having the first turn. I took note of how much better Steven's sprite looked in combat than Red's, a different pose, his hair looking like it was blowing in the wind, a brief, minor upgrade, but still, much nicer. I think I figured it out. I think he's got a crush on this character. Look, I get it, he sounded pretty nice, I agree. I left the house after some more banter with my brother, in quotations, stepping out to the Pallet Town theme, mind you. Going to the east, I found this was indeed Pallet Town. The house was simply on the outskirts to the west. I noticed there was no mysterious grassy field like in normal Pallet Town. Wandering about, I decided to check in on Red's home. His mother was inside, and when I talked to her, she commented on how handsome Steven looked, hoping her son would look up to him as a role model for when he became a trainer himself next year, which of course led to me to realize this game took place a year before the original Pokemon. Red was even upstairs, playing the Super Nintendo in his room, commenting, "I'm gonna be the best too when it's my turn." I was starting to like this hack. It was interesting, a completely new adventure, a different character. Heck, Steven even seemed to have a history with the people in his town, a reputation, a personality beyond a silent protagonist. The people in town talked to him as a person, making conversation, not just spouting tutorial crap. Even Blue's sister had new dialogue. They seemed to be in a relationship too, as the dialogue ended with a kiss and a heart over her head. Aw, look at us go. Professor Oak simply wished me well, giving me a Pokédex to aid my adventure. He wasn't giving it to me to be the reason behind... that is what it said. To be the reason behind the adventure, like every other Pokemon game out there. He gave it to me out of kindness. Something to help me on my way. A gift. I was liking this more and more with each second. The game seemed to have an actual story now. I was somebody, not just a cookie-cutter protagonist anyone could be, not some blank sheet that could be replaced without notice. I don't think he should play any SMT or Persona game. The story was different, though the actual gameplay remained unchanged. I went north like I was supposed to, went from town to town, collected badges, received the praise of the leaders. Steven's fame even seemed to spread, as some NPCs would talk like they knew him. I used Mickey for every battle, and she was growing surprisingly fast. She handled Brock with ease. Okay, I'm just gonna read this how it is written. Even pounded Misty with no trouble at all. Thanks, author. She wasn't as adversely affected by super effective attacks as others. Did more damage than a regular Charmander. She was a veritable powerhouse. She even became a Charizard at the mere level of 25. Not bad at all, I must say. Things started to get weird as soon as I reached Lavender Town. Of course it did. I know. Lavender Town is the focus behind every creepy story and the like, but it was the only place that was noticeably different, besides the intro and Pallet Town like you just explained to me. There was no Team Rocket invasion, which I found odd, although I did remember this was a year in the past, so the invasion wouldn't occur until Red's time. I tried to enter the Pokemon Tower, aiming to get a Ghastly, but that's when it go odd. It says go odd. I'm not making that up. Steven, I have no reason to be here. Steven wouldn't go into the Pokemon Tower no matter what I did. This was weird. I mean, heck, there are a million places in Kanto you really have no need to be. Little random houses with nothing but children, NPCs, for example. Why was it here that Steven wouldn't enter? With a shrug, I figured I wouldn't need a Ghastly, seeing as Mickey could handle anything, so I simply went on my way, Lavender Town serving no purpose other than a passageway with the Poke Center. The game progressed normally from there. The remaining gyms fell, and eventually I made my way to the Elite Four and defeated them. As with Blue, my brother, in quotation marks, Mike, was there before me, initiating the championship battle, which Mickey swept with ease. The aftermath of the battle was quite pleasant. None of the tension that was present between Red and Blue at the end of their match. The brothers congratulated each other on their progress and shook hands before the screen went white. No Hall of Fame, nor any credits. When the screen came back, I was at the house again. The two brothers sitting at the computer conversing with each other. Steven, I don't want to, ... Mike, come on, I just gotta borrow her for a second to finish the Pokédex. The entry won't register unless she recognizes me as a master for just a second. Steven, but she's my Mickey, ... Mike, I promise I'll give her back. Come on, please? Yes? No? I was a bit perplexed, so I hit no to be cautious. Mike, come on, please? No. Mike, come on, please? I realized this would simply continue to loop until I hit yes, so I did, just to see what happened. Mike, alright, this will just take a second, then we'll both be Pokemasters. Steven, ... The screen changed to the animation shown when two people trade Pokemon, which I found a bit weird, seeing as I was solo. But whatever, this was apparently supposed to happen. Mickey went first. I watched lazily as she began to travel down the trading tube. Snap! That made me jump, the sudden noise resonating in my silent bedroom. Loud due to the volume being way up. That would do it. Looking at the screen, I noticed the game had seemed to freeze. Mickey still in mid-trade, but the game wasn't doing anything. With a sigh, I just turned the game off, wondering when my last save was. When the game turned back on, I stared for a moment at the start screen. There was no Charizard next to the trainer. Upon pressing start, I saw the new game option was absent, leaving only continue. This was ... strange to say the least, so I selected it. The game staring without even showing my stats as usual. Oh yeah. My jaw dropped at what I was greeted with. 1 year later. The Lavender Town theme came first. Yes, of course it did. Yeah, let's go. Playing its normal way. The screen slowly fading in from the blackness. Steven was in the Pokemon Tower, which made the music even stranger, seeing as the tower had its own theme. He was standing in front of a tombstone, not doing anything. Wondering what was going on, I pressed A. Steven. ... Confused, I tried walking, realizing I was indeed in control at the moment. I brought up the pause menu and checked my party. Mickey was gone. Not just Mickey, all Pokemon. He had nothing. The Pokédex was absent from the menu. His bag was empty, knees weak, arms spaghetti. Honestly, concerned now, I checked his trainer card. He had no money. He had no badges. He had no bitches. I'm sorry. Okay, let me get back to it. His playtime was 8,795 hours, which was impossible, as I had only 30 in before. But that wasn't the strangest part. His picture, the picture of the handsome, confident young trainer, ... was different. His eyes were blank, his face turned slightly down. That smirk of his was gone, replaced by a lack of any expression at all. That long hair of his, before in a perfect perm, was now messy and unkempt. I couldn't look at him anymore, closing the menu. I went to move out of the tower, but with every step I took away from the tombstone, the screen flickered, like it did when a Pokemon was poisoned. Gulping, I brought up the trainer card again. His picture was getting worse. Every step I took, he hung his head more and more. His shoulders slumped. He bent over. I bet you like that, author. By the time I had exited the tower, he was on his knees. Of course he was. Hands to his face, hair draped across him. I had guessed already what was going on, but this clinched it. That's what it says. I began to put some things together in my mind. I had always wondered why there was no champion in the original game besides your rival. Why is it you, the protagonist, had to beat your rival when he just waltzed in? No previous champion to challenge. Then it struck me. The answer was right here. The previous champion gave up. His precious Mickey was apparently dead, and with her, so part of him died, verbatim what it says. His Pokédex, the other Pokemon, his badges, his fame, all of it, he threw it away. In that year, the year that I missed, the year where all those hours came from. I even did the math. There is 865 hours in a year. Add that to my 30 before, and it all matched up. Hold on. Real-time fact-checking. How many hours in a year? Yeah, what we got? Let's see, what did he say? He said it was, I'm getting, 8,760, so is my man wrong? That'd be really funny. Okay, so, even so, the game kept going. This should have been an ending, I thought. I mean, what else was there to do? I had no Pokédex, no Pokemon, not anything. What was I supposed to be doing? I talked to everyone in town, but they all said similar things. Are you okay? Still mourning, I see. ... Everything will be alright. ... Please. ... Is there anything we can do? Stephen never replied to them, and they all simply said the same things over and over again. I couldn't put the game down now. This was all so strange. Curious, I headed off into the tall grass and eventually got into a battle with a Rattata. No Pokemon was sent out, just Steven's sprite. I was wondering how I'd battle. Wild Rattata. Wow, it's like a tongue twister. I'm starting to think I'm dyslexic. Wild Rattata left you be. The battle ended without anything happening. This was certainly interesting, and it happened with every Pokemon I encountered. Wild Pidgey ignored you. Wild Ponyta wandered off. The music never changed either. No matter where I went, Lavender Town came from the speakers. Of course it did. Following me, sometimes slowed down slightly, sometimes not. I searched everywhere, every town, talked to everybody, wondering just what the heck I needed to do. My frustration was mixing with the atmosphere of all of this, making the experience altogether unnerving and uncomfortable. But I couldn't tear myself away. I was starting to get a bit angry, though. Nobody telling me anything besides giving me their condolences and trying to give me items like lemonade or coffee, each met with, "Slow down. If somebody hands me coffee, I'm a happy camper. I'm not going to be angry about that." Steven, ... No, ... I slapped myself for the idiocy, suddenly realizing how the likely answer was right in front of me. Pallet Town, of course. When I went there, though, which took a long time, having to walk, no Pokemon to fly with, no bicycle to ride. He's so upset he can't even ride a bicycle. Oh, poor guy. And Steven only seemed to move half the regular movement speed. It wasn't much different. At first, I tried talking to Professor Oak. "These things happen, ... You were just unlucky." Next, I tried Blue's sister. "Please, ... Don't leave home again, ... Red's mom wouldn't even talk to me at all. With nowhere else in mind to go, I walked to the west, finding the house from the beginning, which I had never entered since leaving Pallet Town. Inside was Mike, but talking to him was just as useless. "Mike, I'm so sorry, ... I pondered for a moment if this was really the ending. Steven doomed to nothing but roam Kanto in misery, haunted by the memories, forced to listen to everyone's concerns about him. As a last-ditch effort to do anything, I went to the bedroom and walked over to the bed. "Steven, I'm going to sleep, ... The screen faded to black for a moment, but then slowly faded back in, the world having a black tint to it. The Mike sprite laying in the other bed. I assumed this meant it was night. "Steven, I'm going to do it, ... Do what?" Again, I had no idea. Tried inspecting everything in the room. Nothing happened. As soon as I left the house, another dialogue. "Steven, it can bring her back, ... It can do anything, ... What the heck was it? Something that could do anything. I couldn't for the life of me figure it out. Wandering about, I tried to leave Pallet Town the usual way. Steven, not that way. He wouldn't go any farther. I tried the homes. Steven, screw them, ... I quirked my eyebrow at this, forgetting for a moment this was not a real Pokemon game. The vulgarity just took me off guard. I'm sorry that it did. I continued to look around, but there was nowhere I could go until I suddenly stepped on the ocean, and Steven walked right in, only the upper half of his sprite visible, like the swimmers you encounter in the Cerulean Gym. I didn't know he could swim, ... Steven, the missing one, ... Missing one? I paused for a moment. No, he couldn't possibly mean, ... That! I hadn't tried the missing number trick on this hack yet, but it just fit too well. That had to be what he meant. I, in quotations, surfed all the way towards Cinnabar. I began to feel something was off, more so than this already was. Silence. The Lavender Town theme had stopped. There was no noise at all, nor were there any Pokemon. I just kept going, finding Cinnabar and surfing up and down the east coast. Lo and behold, wild missing no appeared. Steven, mine, ... Wild missing no was caught. What the heck? Steven didn't do anything. He just commanded the atrocity of broken data to join him. No, become his possession. And it did. I was getting more and more disturbed by this all. Checking the start menu, I saw Missing No. It was not in my party, but instead an item, making things even stranger. I checked the trainer card as well. Steven had his back to me, his long hair draped behind him, his hands in his pocket, nothing else. Remembering what he said at the start of the night, I realized what I had to do, ... I surfed the land and made my way northeast to, where else? Lavender Town. Along the way, I noticed all the trainers, oddly still out at this hour, wouldn't look at Steven. all of them turning when he passed, even those that were normally static. I tried talking to one of the officers in the guardhouse type buildings. Just go. ... They all said the same thing. The one sent chills down my spine. Sometimes dead is best. My hands were sweating at this point. Stephen was about to try the impossible, something some would see as a crime against nature, which many of these people shared that opinion. I steeled myself. It's just a game, and I was going to complete it. It took an eternity to reach Pokemon Tower, but I got there eventually, taking a deep breath and heading towards the tombstone. I remembered which one. The image of Steven standing before it. It was burned into my mind after all. First, I tried inspecting it. Steven. Mickey. ... Nothing happened. With a gulp, I opened the menu and selected Missing No from the bag. Oak. Steven. Don't use it. I was reminded of when Professor Oak would magically tell you that you couldn't use a key item somewhere, like when using the bicycle in a building. Though the message this time was different. Even worse, Steven responded to it. Steven. In a world that cheated me, why should I play fair? ... Steven used it. Okay, look, there's so many ellipses here. I'm not going to sound out every one because it might take like 5 minutes. Steven obtained... It's a garbage mess of text. What in God's name did I obtain? I couldn't tell you, because the game took away my control. Without my input, Steven began to leave the tower on his own, walking single step by single step. The Lavender Town theme started again as he left the tower, and began his excruciatingly slow journey against my will. Every time he crossed one of the borders where the music would change, it got progressively slower, more and more disturbing. By the time he reached Cerulean City, it was a demonic rumbling. I just stared, watching him, trying to guess where he was going, but it was getting more and more obvious. He was heading to Pallet Town. The music... Thanks, Kitty. So, I think my cat wants to be a guest speaker on the story, but unfortunately, I think she's kind of shy around the mic. That's all I can get out of her. So, the music had all but stopped when he got there, playing single note by single note. He went exactly where I had guessed, right to his own house, inside and up the stairs. At this point, there was no music. Steven moved step by step, stopping at his brother's bed, turning to face him. At first, though the game froze. He didn't do anything, simply stood there, and I couldn't move him. I did, however, find out that I could open the pause menu. I was terrified to look, but I couldn't stop myself. I selected his trainer card. There was a low growl noise, like a distorted Pokemon cry. Steven was looking at me, directly at the screen. He was hunched over, his bangs obscuring his face. His hair was wild and feathered out. Between his bangs, there wasn't even a face at all, just black. 2 red eyes looking straight forward, a white grin contrasting with the darkness. That wasn't all. His name was now, more glitch text. I couldn't look away, my eyes glued to his, not breaking contact for some time. My vision was getting blurry until I couldn't see very well. My face grew wet. I was crying like a baby. There was nothing I could do to hold back the tears. I was with this boy from the start. I built him up to greatness and was then forced to watch his decline after a tragic accident. And now, ... he was this thing, this abomination. I watched him go insane. Halting my tears, wiping my eyes, I closed out of the trainer card and tried to save the game, wanting to just quit. The game informed me this was impossible. Nothing can be saved now. The pause menu wouldn't close no matter what I did, so with no other option, I checked the bag. Nothing happened. I checked Pokemon and there was one, A single sprite met me. It had 0 HP. Its status, DED. Its name, glitch text. I selected it, and I was greeted with 4 options. Status, it's her, ... Switch, never. Close, ... no, ... Strangle, my fingers shaking. I selected strangle, and the menu closed, showing Steven in the room again. Steven, goodbye, ... Snap! The game shut itself off. I was more dumbfounded than frightened. In a bit of shock, I turned it back on, the title screen showing the manic Steven and a horribly glitched Charizard. I pressed start, then continued. All I saw was a zoomed-out view of Pallet Town, showing Steven's home to the west, tall grass surrounding it, those unmovable stones blocking it from the rest of the town, and that sounded like a run-on sentence. The image was completely static. No music, no movement. Before fading to white, going back to the title screen. It was as it had been when I first popped it in, a trainer and a Charizard. I attempted to hit continue. ... No. ... And once again, there is no author attached to this. That is a crying shame, because I definitely like that one. So there's also, near the end of this story, some more pictures that I'll throw on screen of like the trainer card stuff. And make sure I don't forget these pictures. I mean, you gotta get immersed in the story, you know, right? So again, maybe I'm just easy to please. I don't think I've heard this one in a minute, but like I still enjoy this story. I really enjoyed the author's crush on his own OC. Like I thought was adorable. I really enjoyed like the romantic subplot that was happening between the two. I thought that was really expertly crafted, and honestly, I'm awaiting for the sequel to this so we can continue to see where their relationship left off. So yeah, like I like the prospect of a prequel to the first Pokemon game. It's like one of those. It's like it's uncharted territory, and I think that's really good for some sort of like fan fiction like this. I like the idea of trying to place some new champion before Pokemon Red and Blue happened, and trying to like explain who that could have been. I definitely like the idea of using missing number as some sort of like revival technique to give you like a spooky, glitchy Pokemon. Again, and you know what? There's, again, kind of surprisingly, not too much like gratuitous violence or bloody imagery or anything. Like there's a little bit of it, and especially like near the end. But it's like it's shockingly like reserved, and they definitely didn't go like overboard with it or anything. And I think it definitely comes across as a little more well put together than Glitchy Red. Just, I think because of the lack of like heavy profanity, and there's a little less of a condescending nature to the story compared to Glitchy Red, but I enjoyed both for different reasons. Right now, as I'm reading through these, I'd still say Pokemon Black's my favorite. But this would be my second favorite, and I definitely like that. Again, there's kind of a huge plot with this going on, and I'm enjoying the progression of how plot heavy these are so far, going kind of back to back with these. And I hope our next pick is going to be just as interesting. All right, yo, what's up? Who wants to read Easter Egg? Snow on Mount Silver, yo. I remember enjoying this one a lot. I barely remember what it's about, to be honest. So I am very excited to get into this. It seems like it's going to be another long one. So I hope you're nice and relaxed. I hope you're just chilling and vibing and having a good time. Get another cup of coffee if you have to, because we are going to get into Easter Egg, Snow on Mount Silver. Oh boy. So, my brother and I, we kind of grew up on Pokemon. Around here, a lot of kids did. It worked out perfectly for us too. Every time a new gen came out, One of us would get one version, one of us would get the other, and since our mom liked to spoil us, we both got the third one. This is going to sound, at first, like a bittersweet story about two siblings who grow up with a couple of games that eventually take them down two different roads. Well, it's a little more than that. The years rolled by. We kept collecting. Game Boys got old. We replaced them. Cartridges finally gave out. We picked up new copies. But we started down two completely different roads before Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald came out. See, around then my brother got a Game Shark. We had heard all the hacks and cheats you could do with them. Even if we were kind of late to the party, they sounded awfully cool. Our first guinea pig cartridges was my brother's old blue version. We just screwed around with it a little bit, nothing major. But whatever we did messed up the cartridge. After just a couple of code entries, it glitched out completely and became unplayable. Naturally, we were upset at first. My brother mourned the loss of his hours of work, and I was sympathetic. I told him, it's okay, we can replace it, I guess. Stupid shark was a waste of money. But here, our paths finally differed. After seeing the mess it had turned the blue version into, I'd become opposed to the idea of hacking or cheating any of my games. What can I say? I'm a chick. I feel feelings for the little pixel critters. I'm betting not. Okay. At least with the Game Shark. But my brother had taken his game's destruction as a personal challenge. Or something. I don't think he ever played a game after that which wasn't hacked somehow. Yeah, we played a crap ton of Pokemon, man. But for us, there really wasn't much else to do. We lived way out in the country without many other kids. And the farmers didn't want us on their property. ... So, ... we played Pokemon out on the lawn just about all day, every day. Not gonna lie, that sounds pretty chill. It was pretty awesome to us, at least. We lost the Game Shark when our rooms got moved around. A new addition was built onto our house, and it disappeared in the mess of stuff that got stuffed into the new closet. Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald arrived, and after playing through them once, we were both in agreement that they were definitely lacking in comparison to the last gen. We both tried another honest playthrough, and though we managed to finish, it left us both yearning for some good old-fashioned nostalgia. Where were our old gold, silver, and crystal cartridges, though? It took us probably a month to dig through the boxes we had been too lazy to open up before, but we finally found one full of a crap load of our old electronics. My purple Game Boy Color still worked. His red one could no longer hold batteries in place. Both of our GBAs were fine, though, along with our snake lights and link cables. That one with the nifty little connector in the middle that I had always wrapped up oh so carefully to avoid fraying the wires and condemning it to the trash like our last cable. We both grabbed up everything we could. It was so nice to have Yellow, which had been my first and most cherished game of any series, not just Pokemon, and Red and Gold back. We went through the motions of checking our old files, taking in all the old memories, and eventually we figured out that the Gen 1 stuff was just too nostalgic to get rid of. I restarted Gold, that's not Gen 1. He restarted Silver. Immediately, he snatched the Game Shark out of the box and slipped it into the back of his GBA. I just shook my head at him. I remember what I said to him. That thing will kill your game, you know. He never had liked me preaching to him about abusing pixels. I shut my mouth after that, but it had put him off from playing with me. I guess it was just one too many times or something. I ought to know to keep my thoughts to myself, really, ... It was a couple of days later that it happened. I was out on the porch, Game Boy in hand, just about to go into the Elite Four, when I realized I needed a little help. My team was ill-balanced thanks to my playing through for leisure, and at the time I was no greater trainer that could pull off gimmick runs verbatim. I knew that my brother had been 2 badges ahead of me when we last checked with one another, so I was hoping maybe he'd let me borrow a Pokemon or two just for this run-through. Now, the thing is that I'd spent the last 24 hours at a friend's place. I had literally come home, dumped my bag in my room, and crept out into the sun with my GBA to play. I had no idea what he'd been up to. For all I knew, he was done with the game and on to a new one, ... which, I figured, was all the better for me since he wouldn't need those Pokemon, and I'd stand a better chance of nicking a few. So I got up and went into the house, and when I was crossing the living room, I noticed all of his Pokemon games were lying on the floor. Some of the cartridges had been mangled, like they'd been hacked at with something sharp. Even his old blue version, long ago dead and too sentimental to throw away, was lying with the plastic cut ragged, split almost halfway up one side, completely unusable anymore. Even if it would have worked, I was a little scared. This had to have happened this morning. Otherwise, our mom would have seen and they wouldn't be lying on the carpet. Tucking my GBA into my pocket, I crept over to his room and I found the door unlocked. Somehow, that was even more concerning. I walked in, didn't even knock, and found my brother sitting on the edge of his bed. His GBA was in pieces on the floor at his feet, smashed to bits. Next to him on the bed were a hammer and our mother's gardening scissors. His face was paler than I'd ever seen it, even whiter than that time we'd gone corning, and the old guy up the street, legally blind and a raving nutcase, had come and chased us into the trees with a shotgun. What are you talking about? It was now I also noticed the Game Shark on the ground, and a silver cartridge corner poking from under his bed. Somehow, they had been spared the wrath of the hammer. "Are you okay?" I asked. I remember the chills that ran through me. He was my little brother. Seeing him like this was horrifying. It was awful. I remember him rasping, and the way his voice rattled made my made my knees weak, arms spaghetti. Okay. Oh God. White everywhere, and then black. ... I remember running over and hugging him. I remember his limp arm fell and brushed the Game Boy in my pocket, and his sudden scream right in my ear, making me jump and bite my tongue by accident. He ripped the handheld from my pocket and hurled it at the far wall. I cried out at the dent the plastic system made there, running over to collect it. The screen had gone dark. GBAs always have dark screens, and though I feared the worst when I flicked the switch, it powered up normally. I waited there in the corner, trying to pretend the GBA mattered enough not to go and run for our mom. The volume was on. The Pokemon theme started up, and he screamed again, picking up the hammer. This time, I screamed, too, and ran from the room with my GBA clutched to my chest like a shield. He ended up in the psych ward of the hospital for 2 days. When we went to visit him, I left my GBA at home. No one could figure out what had set off his strange, manic behavior. There was some talk at the time about some kind of disorder that he may or may not have had, but even though Mom and I had collected and brought in all the cut-up cartridges to be looked at, Mom's idea, not mine, no one had even thought to tie it back to the game, ... Maybe that was my fault. I hadn't said a word about what had happened when he accidentally touched my Game Boy, or the blind, white terror he had been thrown into when the music had started. On my last visit to the hospital before school on the second day, I was left alone in the room with him while Mom had some private talk with the doctor about precautions to take should this happen again. I sat in the chair next to the bed, where he was staring at the ceiling, but then suddenly he sat up, making me flinch. Remember, this is all over Game Boy Pokemon games. "Hey," he told me, "Angie, go in my room when you get home." I didn't understand what he meant, and then I remembered the things we hadn't packed up and brought in, ... the game and the hacking tool under his bed. Get rid of them. I don't ever want to play with them ever again. His voice was so weary and desperate, ... He sounded like an old man on his deathbed. My poor, damaged little brother, ... How could I refuse? Promise you'll get rid of them. Okay, I promise. I was carted off to school late, and through the whole day I only had my promise to him in my head. I didn't know it at the time, but this would be the last time I could ever play the big sister role and help him out. I just had to get home and get rid of that game, ... But as the day went on, a sick curiosity started to go through my own head. What could possibly have happened to that game that scared him so badly? I was scared, myself, but I just had to know. I had to. I got home and went right into his room, bent on uncovering whatever horror was waiting for me. Mom had since vacuumed the room, and the cartridge and Game Shark were no longer visible. I got down and crawled half under the bed, feeling timid but holding on to the promise I made as my badge of courage. Under the bed, there was enough dust to make me cough, enough old Legos and various other toys that I couldn't set my elbow down without it landing on something. But I finally saw both objects. They had been shoved to the corner, on top of a notebook that looked too new to have been down there long. Unthinking, I grabbed the corner of the paper and dragged everything out with me, still wheezing from the dust, allergies and all. They looked so innocent, simple toys in a simple, spiral-bound bunch of papers. When I set silver version of the Game Shark on the floor, I took a closer look at the notebook. On it were scrawled at least 20 different cheat codes, but one of them had been scratched out with a Sharpie over where it had initially been drawn with pen. This was confusing. You're telling me. He had really tried to erase it out. The marker had been pressed to the paper so hard, the ink soaked through most of the pages behind it, almost 2/3 of the way to the cardstock back cover. But pen has a way of sticking around. I picked up the notebook and tilted it backwards in the light, and the reflective surface of the Sharpie revealed the indents that had been left where he'd written. The code was an unintelligible mess of letters and numbers, but the words next to it confused me. Title drop, Easter egg, snow on Mount Silver. I remembered what he said when I'd found him, ... He'd been raving about white, and then black, ... Could he mean snow? Even though it was only August and the temperature was still climbing to 90 degrees every day, a chill ran down my spine. Did I dare? ... Question mark. I picked everything up and brought it to my room and laid it out on the carpet in front of me with my own GBA next to it. For a long time, I just stared down at it, and the longer I looked, the more maniacal Lugia's face became on the sticker, ... Like some kind of twisted grin, like it was daring me to find out what had happened to my brother. I was a 14-year-old kid. It shows. Did I really want to tempt fate and risk ending up like him? I glared down at Lugia for a while longer. I had to see. I slid gold out of my GBA and stuck silver in its place. It took me almost 15 minutes to compose myself and turn it on. It started up normally. I left the sound on low, too afraid of what I might hear to keep it up the full way. That's, again, verbatim. And too curious to turn it the whole way off. The title screen was normal too. Lugia, again, but somehow menacing, despite my common sense telling me it was the exact same picture as every other time I had started up the game. How bad could this be? I asked myself. His notes said, Easter egg. Didn't that mean that was coding already in the game? The menu came up, ... Still absolutely normal. His character was Balake, with a mostly filled Pokédex, ... But the time was odd. 99999. I knew he couldn't have been playing that long, ... I had barely logged 50 hours on my own game, and I was at the E4, ... and I was playing slowly. Probably the result of his hacking messing up his file, I thought. Well, whatever then. ... The game started up, and the first thing I noticed was the prolonged black screen. It took almost a minute for anything to change. ... And there was no sound at all. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up already, but it was too late to turn back. Finally, a very dim sort of map came onto the screen. ... But it looked like static. What was going on? I squinted down and realized with a fearsome pang that it was actually the Mount Silver map. ... But what I thought was static was heavy falling snow. So this was where he last saved his game. I checked his party. ... A very normal team for someone who'd been using a Game Shark, Typhlosion, Feraligator, Meganium, Pidgeot, Tyranitar, Lugia, all level 100 with modded moves. ... Typical for him. Something about the sprites. ... Strange, though. They seemed sullen, in a way. Their colors seemed washed out, and their expressions lacked the usual vigor they normally had. I chalked this up to missing pixels or something. Also, due to the hacking. ... The map had brightened up just a smidgen when I closed out of the start menu. Indeed, snow was somehow falling very heavily. Pixels danced across the screen so fast it was hard to see the little sprite that was my brother's character. Something was off about him, too. When I checked the information, it was the same as the Pokemon sprites. The colors were dull. In fact, now that I thought about it, he almost looked frostbitten. My stomach tightened, and I turned and tried to move back down the mountain. As I hit the bottom of the screen, words popped up, and there was finally a sound, my sprite hitting an invisible wall. I can't turn back now. That was ... unsettling. I went into my Pokemon and tried to use Pidgeot's fly ability. I can't fly in this, obviously referring to the snow. F this, I thought, going into his bag. There was an escape rope. I tried using it. I can't go back anymore. What was going on? Once again, I tried to walk back down the mountain, and to my horror, the words changed with every attempt. I can't run away. I can't go back down. I can never go back! This last one sent a frigid feeling through my heart. There was no way down the mountain. I had to climb. Turning the little sprite around, I moved him forward. No resistance at all, though my walking speed was oddly slow. What was truly weird was the lack of grass, of trainers, of anything at all but the white snow, which still blew across the screen and made it almost impossible to see. As I moved farther up, in quotations, the mountain, his walking speed became slower and slower. The static curtain of pixels grew thicker, so that I could barely make out the features of the map. ... But it seemed like the only way to move was straight ahead anyways. I reached what looked like a set of stairs at the very top edge of the screen. I didn't remember this being there before. As I tried to move up, the little sprite paused. I'm cold. By now, even I was getting goosebumps. His walking speed had become painfully slow, as if somehow he was being impeded. Up the little staircase. ... More text on screen. This Pokemon has died. I can't pronounce that Pokemon. What the F, I thought. Pokemon don't die in these games. I checked in my party and was frightened and confused by what I saw. The Pokemon sprite had been replaced by Red X. All of my other Pokemon sported varying degrees of damage, though I hadn't battled once. I went into my bag and I found a single revive, and I tried to use it. It's too late, it said. What kind of Easter egg was this? There wasn't much else I could do. ... Trying to turn around yielded the same message as before, so I kept moving. Pidgeot has died. I checked again. ... Sure enough, there was a little red X. This time I selected it and looked at the Pokemon itself, trying to figure out what was wrong. ... I wish I hadn't. The sprite was mangled, pieces of it were missing, What was left was splotched with a sickish blue-gray color, and its eye was a solid black pit. I flipped down to this other Pokemon that I still can't pronounce. Same deal. A leg missing, a chunk of its neck, most of its head, save that pitch-black dead eye. Morbid curiosity urged me onward, and the path never deviated from the straight, upward road I traveled the entire time. Along the way, every now and then, another party Pokemon would die, and examination of its sprite would show it was in the same condition as the others, until all that was left was Typhlosion. One more staircase was up ahead. I climbed, braced for whatever horror awaited me. I hit the summit. It was deserted. Red was nowhere to be found. The snow had stopped falling. In the very center of the map was something sticking out of the snow. It looked like a Pokeball. Okay, maybe all this creepy stuff led up to some cinematic final battle using whatever was in there. If I picked it up, maybe Red would come out of hiding. I walked over and examined it, and there was a burst of static noise from my game that made me jump. What appeared on the screen was a battle animation, my trainer sprite appearing, his skin tinged blue, ... against another mangled Pokemon sprite. It was Celebi! In the center of that black hole that was its eye, a single red dot burned out like an ember. The thing looked rotted. I didn't even throw out my mostly dead Typhlosion before it had moved. Celebi used Perish Song. A screech came out of my GBA, and I almost dropped it as the screen went white. A part of me was relieved, thinking that my final Pokemon had been KO'd, and I would be transported to a Pokemon Center. ... But I was wrong. My sprite reappeared in what looked like a cave. Was I now inside the mountain? I checked my trainer card and felt sick. The sprite was just as mauled as the Pokemon had been. A leg gone, a single eye remaining, pitch black, and so sad looking. Tears welled up at their corner, ... And every color on him was replaced by those 6 shades of frosty blue and gray. Every stat on the card was reduced to 0, except the time, which still read 99999. I quickly moved back to the map. His sprite there mimicked the horror it had become on the trainer card. Pieces were missing. Everything was discolored. I started trying to walk, and at first I received a message. It's so cold. There was only one direction to go, upward. I moved on, and every now and then would be stopped by a message that made my heart sink lower and lower. Mother, ... It feels so cold, ... I can't go on, ... The walls, as I walked, became darker and darker until they were pitch black at the end. There was an exit there, marked only by a white outline. I had no other choice but to go through it. It opened into a chamber that was also solid white, ... The only way to distinguish the walls was a thin gray line that marked them as separate from the floor. Against the far wall there was another sprite, Red sprite, intact. I had come this far, ... I had to finish this. I walked right up to him and hit A, ... A battle started. Red sprite had none of the deformities that marred my own. The colors were the same blues and grays, but he was intact. He just looked ... extremely sad. His first Pokemon came out, Venusaur. It was just like my own had been, ... but level 0 with a speck of health. I sent out Typhlosion, who had just 6 hit points, HP in parentheses, left. No Pokemon made a sound when they were brought into battle. Now, I'll throw this up on screen too. They provided a lovely picture of these like deformed Pokemon sprites. You know, it's really setting the mood. I'm really getting into this one. Venusaur, you struggle. There was no animation, just a single point of damage done to Typhlosion, and then the opposing sprite dropped off the screen. Venusaur has died. There was no text asking me to switch out. Instead, there was just what I took to be the dialogue from Red. ... His next Pokemon was Blastoise, even more mangled than Venusaur had been. It too struggled and died. After each round, there was that ominous ... from their trainer. Every sprite was even more damaged than the last. His Espeon was barely distinguishable as a Pokemon. I realized somewhere he was sending them out all out of order, verbatim, which saved one Pokemon for last. ... And there's more cool, messed up Pokemon sprites. So, again, editing me, I'm just going to throw those on screen for you. Pikachu came out, and it was grotesque. It, too, was discolored like it was frostbitten. It was missing an ear, half its body, and tail. Its head was mostly intact, but its eyes were much larger than they should have been, and glared out at me like pitch black windows into hell. ... But that thing that got me the most was the giant smile that extended almost all the way to the edges of its head. Its health was somehow at 0, or at least it looked that way. My hands were shaking. I didn't get a chance to attack. Pikachu used Pain Split. Pikachu had died. Typhlosion had died. It cut back to the image of Red Sprite ... And now it looked like mine. With his body so butchered, it looked like a carcass stripped of most of its meat ... Except it had those same soulless, deranged eyes as Pikachu. I finally understood what had happened. They were dead. They were dead, and this sub-level of the mountain was the hell they now existed in. Red finally spoke. It's over. The screen flashed black and white for a moment. Use Destiny Bod! A horrible, hideous screeching started to issue from my GBA. The screen went white, and it shrieked at me, and I threw it to the floor and pressed my back against the bed. The horrible noise continued for several long moments while the screen stayed white, then went black. Then there was silence. It took me a long few moments, but eventually I stood up. I took the Game Shark. I took the notebook. I took that effing possessed game. I picked them all up and carried them to the garbage can we had already set out for the morning pickup at the end of our long, winding driveway, ... and threw them in. When I got back to the house, I don't know what made me do it, but I picked up Yellow version and inserted it into my Game Boy, ... I think it was part of me, determined to make sure I hadn't somehow been tainted as well. The music started up. The game played. I turned to my Pikachu and hit A. Its smiling face greeted me with an ear twitch and a big, pixelated smile. A pleasant, normal smile. I turned my game off and spent the next hour, an entire hour, crying on the floor. My brother and I never did play Pokemon together again. He gave it up to good. I stuck to replaying my comforting, unhacked games. That winter, the snow fell thick. And this one also doesn't seem to have an author attached to it. No, it does not. So this one is definitely, again, it's another one with a really fleshed out story. Again, I love the premise. This one I remember decently well, but definitely like not completely. I remembered some of like the dynamics between like the two main characters or whatever. But it's, so I think as a story, it's not half bad. It's definitely starting to veer into the territory of, oh my god, look, spooky Pokemon sprites, be super, super scared, and I'm gonna cry and just absolutely soil myself over how scary this game is. And the one thing is, I think as I was kind of reading that, it's less honestly, like, it being a little more of a well-written story, like, there are some grammatical ways that sentences are structured that I'm like, I'm tripping over having to re-record multiple times because it makes, like, no sense. But it's unfortunately a little less entertaining because it's not as insane. There's less constant cussing, which made stuff like Glitchy Red, like, way more fun to read, honestly. But I still think, like, I got pretty into it. I still think it's an entertaining story, and it's one of the better written stories, I'd say, or at least one of the most notable ones I remember, like, reading back in the day or hearing stuff or whatever. But yeah, honestly, it's like it's less entertaining than the ones that are kind of worse, to be honest. So I saved one of my favorites for last. This is definitely one I want to read for this video. This is the perfect one to end things off with. Now, again, I haven't heard this story in a minute, so I'm very excited to get into it and to see. Oh my god, I hope it holds up somewhat. I either hope it holds up somewhat or is awful and terrible. I can hope for one or the other, I suppose. So, the next one we're going to be reading, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, we're going to be reading the Buried Alive model. Wow, this one's way shorter than I remember. Starts with a picture, though, so I'm going to throw that up on screen. That way you can get into the proper vibe of enjoying this creepypasta. So, before I even start reading this, I have to pick some things apart already. So, what is the title of this? Buried Alive model. Okay, I hear this a lot. Where people refer to two-dimensional sprites as models. Models are three-dimensional. That's what a model is. You would use sprites when it comes to 2D assets. Those are sprites. A model is 3D. So, I don't know if I need to tell you this, but the Game Boy is not capable of displaying a 3D model, as far as I know of. I think that one smiley face paintball game or whatever is obviously just stuff like Doom, where it's not like a real 3D. So, just a little tangent there before we get going on. It'd be hilarious if I'm completely wrong, and there is some Game Boy game that can somehow display a 3D model. That'd be hilarious, and I'd love to be proven wrong. So, with that out of the way, let's start the story. The Buried Alive model, often referred to as its code, the Berryman script, God, I love it, was found to be on the final story of the Pokemon Tower, in what has now been replaced with the Marowak Ghost. According to the scripts assigned to it, the Buried Alive model was intended to be the boss of the tower. Once reaching the top floor, the following conversation would have taken place. Buried Alive, you're ... here. Buried Alive, I'm trapped ... Buried Alive, and I'm lonely ... Buried Alive, so very lonely ... Buried Alive, won't you join me? After this, the battle would have been initiated. Once in battle view, the Buried Alive model. The model appears to be a decaying human corpse attempted to crawl out of the ground. It had been programmed to have two white hands, a Gengar, and a Muck. Strangely enough, a protocol for the Buried Alive's actions after it was defeated were not written. In the case of a player defeating him, the game would freeze. However, a specific ending was written by an unknown programmer upon losing the battle. In the ending, the Buried Alive was to have stated, "Finally, fresh meat," followed by several lines of gibberish. He was to have then dragged the player character into the ground surrounding him. The scene would finish with a typical game over screen. However, in the background, an image of the Buried Alive character devouring the player was to have been shown. Especially strange are the protocols for after the scene. The cartridge was to download this image to the small internal memory contained in the Game Boy, overwriting the title screen that normally accompanied a Game Boy turning on. Instead, whenever it was started, the player would view this image as the sound file static mesh.wave was played. This image being the one I showed you already. So another thing I have to say. So obviously, Game Boy cartridges do not contain any WAV files. WAV files are very large in comparison to even MP3 files. Like, you wouldn't even find WAV files on like a PS1 or a Saturn game. Like, they take up way more space than even MP3 files. And that's not how the Game Boy produces audio. That's not how the majority of cartridge-based media produces audio. Now, there are some exceptions. If you look at, like, say, like the Tony Hawk games on the N64, they have very cut-up actual music samples. Game Boys and NES's, Super Nintendo's, Genesises, they use MIDI files, which are essentially, if you have ever used like Guitar Pro or anything like that, it's essentially something similar to a text file that has a certain sound font attached to it with the console, and then it tells that sound chip what noises to make, essentially. It isn't an actual audio file. You can't just, like, rip the music, essentially, as long as, again, there's not some sort of a Game Boy game that has a WAV file that I don't know about somehow, even though the cartridge space wouldn't allow for that whatsoever, unless it was, like, a millisecond long. Definitely a WAV file, though. So, let me read the final sentence instead of going on a tangent like I am. The intended purpose for this effect, unlike many of the other factors leading towards Lavender Town Syndrome, is unknown. So, I thought that one was longer. I really remember that being longer. However, I have something I want to read attached to this, and this isn't me attacking anyone or trying to call someone dumb or make fun of them too much, but there's a comment on this story that I really want to read. I didn't mean make fun of them too much. I'm not trying to make fun of them at all. I love what this person's thought process is. So there's a comment on the story that says, I'd say that this has around a ... 0.1% to 0.5% probability of being real. And keep in mind, this comment says it's written in 2022. Why not 0, you may ask? I have a reason. Game Boy Colors aren't that more advanced than regular Game Boys. They actually are. They do have slightly better hardware, actually. They legitimately do. Just Game Boys with basic colors. So he's already wrong. And again, I'm not trying to, like, harass the guy. I genuinely love this comment. However, there are animations for when Pokemon are first sent out in the Gen 2 games, and some attacks have a bit of animation. So, buried alive in White Hand, they have a tiny chance of being real. A tiny chance. Plus, there is this one girl in Lavender Town who says there was a white hand on your shoulder, and in Pokemon Origins, during the scene where she tells Red that, if you look closely, there is one. However, this is a kid's game, made by a creator who thought some show, forgot the name, was too violent, and that the bad guys should hug it out. He's not adding a horror creature to the game. Due to my small, tiny evidence, it's above 0, but very unlikely. Alright, so if somehow this commenter is watching my video, first of all, no shade. No shade. I love your comment. I really do. If you want to know if something's in the game, just go to the cutting room floor. If it's in the game, it's there. If it's not, it's not. So, no, it's not even a 0.1% chance of it being true. It's a 0% chance, unfortunately. I love the logic, though. I genuinely do. And this caused a little bit of a stir, it looks like, in the comments, and I love the drama surrounding this already. So, again, I know I'm kind of poking fun, but at the end of the day, guys having fun. He's commenting. He's giving his thought process. I love it. It's the kind of thing they teach you in school. It's not just how you got to the answer. It's not just the answer. It's how you got to the answer on top of it. He's trying. He put forward a good faith argument from his level of technical understanding. He's thinking some things. So my dude comes up in here, and he responds to the guy. It's an effing creepypasta. It ain't real. I love the hostility. This guy is having none of it. He's like, no, you're an idiot. It's not real. It's not real at all. And so then my guy responds, and he said, I know it's not real. I was just putting evidence on the fact that there's around a 0.00372% chance that it might exist. I love the specific number, but was removed completely. And then, yet another response to the original response from a third party says, just because it's a creepypasta doesn't mean it isn't real. If you wanted to say it's a creepypasta, it's not real, you didn't have to cuss or swear. So I love this. I love this whole section right here. I love that this started some sort of discourse. And you know what's really funny? This is devolving into a little bit. First of all, creepypasta essentially just means it's a fake story. I wouldn't give any credence to any of them. I love when I hear people online and they're reading stories like this and they're like, oh, we don't know if it's true. It's like, yes, you do. Did you find it on the Creepypasta wiki? It's not true. Okay, moving on. But I love that somehow this story has devolved into some sort of like arguments in the comment section, and this is almost more fun than the original story. I'll tell you something. I remember reading this as a kid. Now, I didn't remember that it was this short. I didn't quite remember the specifics, but I remember I was actually like scared of this. I thought this was kind of scary, like legit. So anyways, let's get back to the discourse. So we have somebody saying, finally, fresh meat, according to the story. And then he's saying, me, ... When the duck did I get to Unit 731? And then there's a reply, dude, use the actual word. Saying it isn't a sin, I think. I'm not going to say it because it's kind of, again, YouTube, And so then the guy responds, okay, thanks. And then somebody else responded, I can confirm that it isn't, at least in their religion. And then they responded again, I have no idea the language you are all speaking. WTF is not cussing / swearing. Oh my god, I was really trying to wrap up this video, but now the comments section has become far more interesting than anything else I was doing. Okay, here we got, again, no harassment with any of these people. I love all of them. So, check this one out. Imagine if Sonic battled it, buried alive. You're ... Here, I'm trapped ... And I'm lonely ... So very lonely ... Won't you join me? Sonic, only if you beat me. Buried alive, beat Sonic. Finally ... Raw meat ... Gibberish Sonic. Wait, what? Yeah, no, I'm not getting eaten today. Punches buried alive into Minecraft. I didn't read this ahead. Oh my god, I love this. Buried alive, huh, ... This world seems to be entirely made out of blocks ... Steve, yeah, no. Oh my god. No way, Sherlock puts a creeper next to buried alive and gets the F out of there. Oh my god. Okay, that was also incredible. I really liked his story. I thought it was honestly one of the best things I've read all night. And with that, we've reached the end of our journey reading through these lovely Pokepastas. I know I picked them apart like the little jerk I am, but I genuinely really enjoy these stories for what they are. They are a ton of fun. I love some of the excessive cursing in some of them. Like, it's incredible. I really enjoyed reading through these. And I noticed while I was looking through the different ones that I wanted to read, and I didn't I didn't want to read them ahead because I wanted it to be like fresh to me as I was reading them. There are a ton of these, and a ton of them I don't even recognize like the titles or anything. So this is something I'm going to come back to at some point. So I hope you enjoyed what you watched today, and with that, I will see you guys later.